Welcome to the Path Podcast. It's May 17th, 2023. My name is Tani. I'm here with Auk. Hey, Auk.
Hey, Tani. How's it going?
It's going well. Thank you.
Good.
How you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. Right before, the listeners don't hear this, but right before we start our podcast, we do like an audio cue, like a clap or something like that. And it made me think, I bet you a lot of people wear Garmin's or Apple Watches, and these things have crash sensors, right? Like fall sensors. And so the other morning, I on my way to work, I rode through some mud and I had to wash my bike off. And I was kind of bouncing my bike like this, right, to get some water off. And then I'm pedaling around the parking lot, and all of a sudden I get a call from my wife, and I'm like, oh no, I hope she's okay. So I pick up the phone. I'm like, hi, are you okay? And she says, are you okay? I said, what are you talking about? She says, I got an emergency crash call from your Garmin. I'm like, what? I'm like, no, I'm totally fine. And I look, and my Garmin crash sensor has been going off.
Can you adjust the sensitivity or anything?
I don't think you can adjust the sensitivity. But the funny thing is, about 3 weeks ago, I crashed pretty hard, and the crash sensor didn't go off. I think I'm just going to turn the crash sensor off, because it doesn't work when you crash.
It didn't work when you crashed.
I should say it doesn't work. It didn't work on that one time.
We don't know the exact failure rate.
That's right. I have had, okay, you know how when you're riding along and you start to lose feeling in your hands, and you do this to get blood back into your hands, and so I have had it go off when I was doing that as well.
Interesting.
So
I can kind of imagine maybe if you land on the other side of your body, how maybe that's not as sharp of a G out, so to speak, as when you just come to a dead stop, slamming your hand down.
I think so. Yeah, and even like I was kind of thinking about that. Whenever you crash, you're not really putting your hand out to take that hard slap, right? At least most of the time. But when you are like bouncing on your bike or something like that, hammering a nail or something. Anyways.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if the nail gives enough when you hammer the nail to make it so you didn't crash.
Maybe. Anyways, other than...
You're still off the coffee?
I am still off the coffee, 2 weeks into it. And what I realized was I think it took about a week for me to get fully off. So every morning when I would wake up, I would still kind of have that little bit slow to get into the day.
But also you're getting some caffeine still.
I am. Diet Coke, which has about a half the amount of coffee.
Caffeine.
Caffeine, right. And then tea. But I've been doing cold brew with cheap decaf.
Oh, sounds delicious.
It actually is. It's not bad. It's the free stuff. It's the stuff that my work provides, and so I make cold brew out of it at work. And since then, I have pretty much been off caffeine.
And
I feel great.
Nice.
Yeah. I wake up in the morning, even after nights where I don't get as much sleep as I should. I wake up in the morning and I feel sharp.
Nice.
Yeah. So I think I'll be off, but like you, I feel freedom to have a nice cup of coffee when I want.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been trying not to have chocolate before bed because there's a little bit of caffeine in chocolate.
All right.
That's tough for me. I really like these Justin's gluten-free peanut butter cups.
Oh, yeah. Those are good. Yeah. Should we get into some shop news?
Yeah, it's not shop news per se. It sort of is. The Waterford factory closed.
Wow. Gunner.
That's sobering for me. And a little kind of like nostalgic. We used to sell quite a few Gunner bikes that were made in that factory.
I agree.
And that factory just has such a cool history with having been the Schwinn factory and then having been revitalized as the Waterford factory. But it is, they went out voluntarily, not necessarily due to. They say that some of their key players are retiring, and rather than find new ones, they decided to just close the doors.
Right. Maybe I'll go try to find my old Gunner.
Yeah.
Gunner hardtail with V brakes.
Yeah. it reminds me of kind of a moment in our history that I'm like a little sketched out by it, but I also know it worked out, and I know that bike actually still works, and I'm also a little proud of it. So when 29er was first coming about,
right,
the axle location relative to the down tubes of frames was not a worked out number, and frame makers and fork makers were kind of like not on the same page. So you could end up with bikes sometimes where, say, the top cap of the fork would hit the down tube when you turn the bike.
Correct.
And we had this customer, we put together this awesome custom gunner for him. And it, picked each part out with him, spent like an hour, holding up different colors with each other and talking about the trade-offs of each brake. And I'm sure this person had a spreadsheet.
Right.
It was a labor of love for the shop and for the rider, and everyone was excited. Bike frame comes in, and we lovingly chase the threads of the bottom bracket shell and face it, and face the head tube, this bike probably didn't need it because it was high end bike, but that was just a thing you did on a steel frame back then.
Right.
And just kind of, we prepped the frame with the frame prep so it wouldn't rust on the inside. Yep. And
probably it was like a Reynolds 853 tube set, like higher end tube set. And
yes, definitely it was Reynolds 853. And took a bunch of care, and just bike is all done, and go for a test ride and come back in and realize that there's this interference between the crown and the down tube.
No.
Next day, on the phone with the fork manufacturer, on the phone with gunner, like kind of like it's their fault. Everyone's kind of like it's their fault.
Right.
And so the customer comes in to check out the bike. They're not too happy with that. And
right.
I take the fork out of the bike, and I'm looking at, this is a 1 1/8 straight steer.
Right.
And I'm looking at the area where the crown race is pressed on.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, there's almost room for 2 crown races right there.
Oh, yeah.
So I got another crown race and shaved it down into a spacer.
Correct.
And put it under the crown race.
Oh my gosh!
And made sure that that both crown races were hard to press on.
Correct.
And put the bike together, and it didn't creak. And I told the customer, I said, I don't think this is dangerous, but it's janky.
Right. Right. And you probably can't tell by looking at it unless you look really close at those two. Right.
I was like, and I told him that too. I was like, I don't think you would ever know unless something happens.
Right.
Where it causes, and what would happen is it would creak.
Right.
I said, if you want, if you're not comfortable, we can get you a different frame, get you a different fork. You don't have to buy the bike from us at all. And he's like, no, I think the customer was I think they were like an engineer or something, and they kind of noodled it around for a day.
Sure.
And really thought it through for themselves and decided they were going to try it. And I think it was only a few years ago that bike came back in for service, and it was still like that.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And still doesn't creak.
And still doesn't creak. That's very good.
So it's the kind of thing that it's like borderline. You would judge a bike shop for doing something like that. But at the same point in time, it was a different time in the industry. You had to do a lot more weird stuff just to keep stuff going.
Right.
Like that was in an era where just to make your bottom bracket not creak, we would like wrap the threads in electrical tape and like,
that's right.
And that like a light layer of grease and then electrical tape in just a certain way as to like try to form a little gasket.
Right.
So water and dirt wouldn't get in there.
Right.
And like, yeah.
Yeah.
It worked. That worked. That helped a lot.
Right. Oh man.
And we weren't the only shop doing that one.
Right.
But there was a lot of stuff like that back then. So
man, I need to try that on maybe one of my older bikes. Yeah, gunner. My gunner, maybe I said this before, but I took it down to, I bought it used actually, and I took it down to Olympic Powder Coat. And they had that mottled finish. And so mine is it's like a silver gray mottled finish.
Almost looks like a truck bed liner or something, but it's a powder coat.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Great. Any news on the transmission deliveries and what have you?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have like 7, I think, transmission kits in stock right now.
Gosh. That's the full kit?
Yeah, cranks and everything.
Yeah. Wow, that's been great. Every time I take my e-bike out, I think transmission on e-bikes.
Yeah.
It's a great
Because of the shifting under load.
Yes. I wonder what that does to because doesn't the motor like when it senses that it's shifting, it reduces torque for a moment as it's shifting?
It waits for the shifting gateway, the shifting gate,
right,
to finish the shift.
Right. That's awesome. Any news on when maybe the non-full kits are coming out?
SRAM has not said anything about that. They're really insistent
that the whole system goes together.
To be clear, they're insistent that you need a 55 chain line.
Got it.
And that you need the T-top specific chainring.
Right.
Or T-type, flat top.
Right. Yeah.
And so right now, in order to achieve those things that I know of easily, that would be a new SRAM crankset.
Correct.
I think you can get T-type compatible chainrings from Wolftooth. And I think if you put a 0 offset instead of a 3 offset on a standard boost crank, you would be right about at that 55.
Got it. Right.
So I think it's doable. But SRAM isn't making it easy yet.
Right.
You kind of got to wonder, okay, here's the other thing. It is available with just a steel 4-bolt chainring, 104 4-bolt.
Right.
So if you really want, you can get, if you're willing to throw away a steel 4-bolt chainring or figure out a use for it, you can get a shifter, chain, charger, battery,
right,
derailleur. And I think we all agree that you need at least that.
Correct.
And in addition to that, for $100 on top of that, you get alloy X01 cranks.
Oh yeah.
So I think what I'm getting to is I'm guessing that the kit that you want will probably be $1,500 retail.
Right. And the kit that they're selling is what?
I think it's $1,600 with a chainring or $1,700 with cranks and a chainring for X01.
Right. So, yeah, it's almost worth the value. No, it seems like it's totally worth the value.
Well,
for $200, you get.
If you believe that you'd have to also buy a $100 chainring
to
make your system work, if you don't buy the cranks, now you're like $100 and you get some extra cranks too, and it's available.
Totally. Maybe I'll be back soon.
Yeah. And then, or you reject the notion that you say, no, I'm going to run that on a 52 chain line, which is what I have, and see what happens.
Right.
But it is for sure designed around a 55 chain line, and even the angle that the jockey wheels sit at is towards a 55.
Yeah. That seems to me to be seems important on a transmission type setup.
I think
more important than
I suspect that it might be.
Yeah.
For having to do with the whole waiting for the gate thing might be part of the story too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think when you really parse out what you have to believe or not believe to want to go against SRAM on this, it starts to sort of make sense.
Right. Yeah, the jockey wheel angle is an important part. Seems like it's an important part of the transmission system.
Well, then there's also how well do you think if you stick with a not flat top chainring?
Right.
Because if you're going to get a new chainring anyway, you might as well get a 0 offset and make the chain line right.
Right.
So really now, if you're fighting this, it's because, and you're being logical about it, in my opinion, it's because you don't believe that you need the tooth profile. And I don't think that's a super popular opinion, even among the skeptics.
Right.
So I don't know.
Right. Yeah, so it could be the whole system together.
Or at the very least, you're buying a wolf tooth chainring.
Right.
If you don't get a chainring from SRAM.
Right.
In which case, you're now closing the gap hard on price.
Correct. And you're almost doing it to be just a little bit different to show that you have a wolf tooth chainring.
Or to prove them wrong.
Yeah. So you've got a bunch of Rises in stock.
The 2023s are really starting to come in now, alloy and carbon. The ones we have all have the bigger, I think, 540 watt-hour battery.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of made me think the 17H range extenders we have in stock need to go on sale because I don't think as many people are going to need range extenders with those.
Yeah, but what about all the people with 340 watt-hour batteries?
360?
360, yeah.
So those need an M range extender, which we have those to sell as well.
Right. But it's a different.
Yeah, and I also we got these Rise H range extenders with the assumption that they would work on the 2024 bike or the 2023 bikes as well as the 2022 alloy bikes.
Right.
They're designed for specifically with the 2022 alloy bikes, and apparently they don't quite charge all the way with the 2023 charger. So
interesting.
You can use it, but you might not get full extra range out of it. And there's an actual 2023 specific one coming.
Got it.
But I think we're going to probably have a little sale on our H range extenders. So aluminum Rise riders should look out for that. Probably like 25% off or something.
That'd be great. That would guarantee you could do a pretty long ride.
Oh, all day.
Yeah, with the 540 plus a. How big
I think the last year's aluminum was 450.
Oh, you're right.
So it'd be 450 plus the range extender.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Which I really want to transition relay, right? But they don't have a range extender for that yet. And that's okay for my ride fantasy for that bike because what I want to do is ride like bike park and I mean like pedal up bike park.
Yeah.
And like gnarly local trails that I want a light, playful, fun geo bike for. So I'm okay with a shorter range for it. But I'm noticing that's a problem with people buying it sometimes it's going to be their one e-bike.
Right. But they can, I thought about that too. Supposedly the battery's easy to take out.
It's super easy to take out.
So
you could get an extra battery.
And
I'm glad we brought this up.
Yeah. Because that 340? I get all the numbers wrong.
I think I need to follow up with one of our sales.
You could carry that around in a backpack, no problem, I think.
Yeah.
It's like, how heavy is that? Maybe 2.5 pounds or something like that. Maybe.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That's where I got myself.
I remember after the podcast to make a note to myself to get some Fazua batteries for some relay batteries and maybe some Shuttle SL batteries too for the same reason.
Just as easy to take the battery out of those?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I got myself too. I'm really interested in checking out that relay.
Yeah.
63-degree head angle.
Would you get an extra battery right off the bat?
I would like to.
Yeah. 63-degree head angle.
Yeah, and that 60 Newton meter, that reduced power motor.
Fazua,
yeah. Is I think that's not going to be an issue.
Tyler, who works at the shop, got one. I think he plans on doing the thing where you sometimes take the battery out and just ride it too.
Yep. And that's great too, because what if you're riding all day at a pedal bike park?
You run out of batteries and just drop the battery and keep going?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be. And to have, I've been riding a 44-pound e-bike feels like a regular bike, and I'm really interested in riding a longer travel e-bike in that weight range.
Yeah, me too. I'm really interested in riding an e-bike in that weight range with geo that's like what I really want it to be.
Correct. Which is what it is.
Right. Did you say 63?
63, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. 170, is it 170 on the rear? It's 170 on the rear, I think.
I think if it's PNW.
That's right. Yeah.
And PNW is a different shock and a different wheel and and a spacer and a chip configuration.
Right.
So you can make any of them PNW pretty easy.
Right. And that I think I'm not sure, but I think you can reconfigure that the X2 into a same eye to eye, slightly longer stroke.
You remove a spacer
Internally, though, it's a bigger lift to do that.
That's you know how to rebuild a damper and a rear shock move.
Right.
And you have a nitrogen charger.
Correct.
And a regulator.
Which you could bring it to the shop and you guys could.
We do that.
Yep.
Yeah, we are full service on Fox and Rock Shocks, which means we can, on their modern stuff, the last, I don't know, whatever it is, 4 or 5 years,
right,
we can do all the procedures and processes in-house.
Can we walk through that a little bit? So if I wanted to take my, I think it's a, was it 205 by 62 and a half and change it to 205 by 65, I think are the eye to eye and strokes to make that change on an X2. What exactly do I have to do to that?
We'd have to have Zach on the show to say, or someone who does that procedure, or I'd have to look at some right, manuals. But I'm pretty sure the shaft has to come off of the damper.
Yeah.
Which at that point you are not in air can land, you're in damper land.
Right.
So I would say if you're a pretty accomplished home mechanic in the modern mountain bike world, you've done an air can service on a rear shock.
Okay.
And most shops and most home mechanics do not disassemble and reassemble dampers, especially on Fox. Rock Shocks has factory support for doing like a Monarch without nitrogen. And it's a pretty simple system. So there are some rear dampers that are easier than others and have less tool requirements than others that do have factory support. That's the big one, is can you call the factory and like get the information you need,
right,
if it's not in the manual, and is there even a consumer manual that tells you what to do? And
right.
So with Fox, for the dampers, there's not a consumer manual that tells you what to do, but there is a consumer manual that will tell you how to do an air can service. So that's kind of a differentiating line there too.
And I guess if you're going to take the shock down that far, does Fox still offer, what is it, like being able to change like valving and what have you to tune?
Some shocks do have options to change the valving, for sure. I wish Fox was a little bit more forthcoming about the different tunes available.
Right.
If we contact them and tell them the problem, they'll sell us a different tune code.
Got it.
Or if we know a tune code that we like for a situation, they'll sell us that tune code. So we can, one way or another, say revalve certain Fox shocks for a heavier or a lighter rider, or a rider for various reasons who needs either firmer or softer than stock, say, compression damping.
Right.
And that, we can get into the whole, regressive, progressive stuff and all that too.
Right. Right. So if you wanted to go through that, the shop could hypothetically do the service, and then quite possibly if you wanted to change that tune on your shock, maybe
I would say right now who we would be good for is someone who has a specific goal.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I bottom my shock out all the time. I've already played with the volume spacers, and I've already played with air spring or sag or spring weight, or you've already played with the sag, and I still keep bottoming it out. So like, okay, maybe you need some firmer damping, and if it's one of the shocks that has different damping shim stacks available, we can make that happen for sure. If what you're looking for is I don't know, it just feels kind of harsh.
Maybe don't do that yet.
We're not. I would say there's probably more you could do first,
right?
And we don't want to just run blindly into making changes without having like a specific problem to solve and a viable solution.
Sure.
That being said, I could see a day where we have like the Path tune for, say, riders under a certain weight or over a certain weight, or riders who fit certain profiles, stuff like that.
You guys still do the Shockwiz rentals?
For sure. And it's funny how resistant people are to that, to having some data acquisition on their suspension, and how not frequently we get taken up on it. It's funny. It's one of those systems that's like, it's pretty easy to set up, and it's designed for anyone to be able to do it, but there are opportunities to mess it up too. And there's more than one opportunity to not get something quite right and really not get good data.
Right.
And so you kind of got to be a good instruction follower to get good use out of it, or get help from someone like the Path.
Right.
I think that might have tarnished people's perspective of it a little bit.
Got it.
But yeah, I'm surprised that people aren't more excited about the Shockwiz.
Yeah, it kind of fell off of my radar. I know I've tried it before. I think we've ridden together with it. We've looked at data together with it. Yeah, I'm surprised that it hasn't picked up more.
The other thing with the Shockwiz is, I think if you're not careful, you can start kind of always chasing your last ride. So like, oh, it said I got 9 out of, because it kind of scores your suspension.
Right.
And like, if you're looking at it as I should always get 5 stars out of 5 on every score, it might be like you have your suspension set up for a variety of trails, and this trail is not. It's not just set up for that trail, and maybe that's good.
Right.
I think people could get lost a little bit in that too.
Right.
So I think you kind of have to pick something that you're setting it up for, and to that point too, it'll get you in a zone. But like, if you put on 5 or 10 pounds, or you get an injury and slow down, or train a lot and speed up, or could change everything still, I think.
Right. Yeah. No, that's good that Shockwiz is still available. Maybe I'll take you up on that sometime.
So speaking of rises, remember I rode my rise and got a flat and rode it out.
Yep.
So it's got full Cushcore in it with a 2.4 27.5 rear tire.
Yep.
Which, like, that's kind of a lot of Cushcore for that tire.
Yep.
I think that maybe even makes it harder to get on and off. Because there's just less of anywhere for the Cushcore to go while you're getting the tire into the deep channel.
Exactly.
So I'm a big advocate of Cushcore, right? But I've got this Path team behind me that usually does the installations.
Oh my gosh, right.
And I hadn't taken a tire off with Cushcore yet.
Oh.
And I knew that it was going to be a challenge, or a learning curve, or whatever. What's that?
Is this a Zip Moto rim?
No, it's a reserve.
Oh, okay. Yep. It's going to be a
It's going to be worse with a Zip Moto because you don't have as deep of a channel.
Correct.
So I try the trash can trick, and I'm kind of not getting anywhere. And I'm pretty good at taking tires off the.
See you flicking your thumb.
Yeah, I know how to like put my thumbs close together and focus the pressure, and I can change most tires without tire levers, right? Like if it doesn't have Cushcore. So kind of not getting anywhere. Chase who works here is kind of like, I can tell he can help, right? like what do you? So he starts giving me some advice. He's like, hey, put the wheel on the ground and pull from the other side towards you.
Right.
Because I'm pushing away.
Yep.
Which is normally how I do it.
Right.
And I was like, okay, so I put the wheel on the ground and I'm pulling towards, using the tips of my fingers to try to pull the tire off the bead.
For sure.
And he's like, okay, now just like scoot forward a little bit and put your knees on the spokes. And I felt like I was back in wrestling, like when like you've almost got to move, and the coach makes a couple adjustments and then it works.
Right.
And he's like, just put your one knee on the spokes on one side and one on the other, and just pull against that, and it just came right off, like almost like it wasn't hard.
Wow, that extra leverage,
and just the technique and the positioning and everything just works. So that's
awesome. You got it off without.
I used tire levers to do the final removal, but I went around the whole wheel that way with my knees on the spokes and got it all the way off the bead, got it loose.
Pro tip.
And it's almost something you're leaning the wheel kind of away from you.
Yep.
And you put one knee on either side of, say, the cassette, and like at say 11 o'clock and 2 o'clock on the clock.
How far out from the cassette are you with your knees?
Like at 11 o'clock, like towards the rim on the spokes.
Towards the rim on the
like
spokes.
where it kind of like as long as they're on the spokes, I think towards the rim.
Yeah. Right in the middle, like between cassette and rim. Are you right in the middle?
I think it was more towards the rim.
Got it. That is awesome.
I was kind of like, I love that stuff where it's like, it seems like it's about force. And Chase is a big, strong guy.
Right.
So it's easy to assume that he's just big and strong. But no, he's doing it the smart way. Technique. Yeah.
I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've resorted to the Cushcore tire lever, like backwards, pushing right on the edge of the bead to unseat it.
Nice.
And that's all.
Maybe
force.
I'll remember to bring in some Cushcore tire levers too.
That isn't the most amazing piece of equipment, by the way.
What was the other thing I was going to remember?
I forget.
We'll
watch the show, right? Okay, so you're changing you managed to change the rear wheel or tire?
Once I got it off the bead, I was like, oh, I got this, and I let Chase finish it. Because I just wanted to make sure I could.
Right.
From there, I knew I could do it.
Right.
That's the part I wasn't sure I could accomplish.
Did you put a new tire on?
No. But I do understand that the installation, if you take both beads off, might be a different story. But I suspect the same trick might be worth trying. I mean,
Yeah. I'm going to try that next time.
It's good stuff.
It is. And I'll tell you that whether it's a double down or a downhill casing, it's a world of a difference. I put a Cushcore on a reserve wheel 29 with a 2.5 DHF EXO, and I was able to get it on with just using a lever at the very end.
Nice.
But I think it has a lot to do with the casing.
Yeah.
So
got the Rise back together, took it for a ride. Man, I love that bike.
So why do you love that bike? How much does that thing weigh? The full
42 and a half
What?
pounds with pedals and full Cushcore.
Are you kidding?
Not kidding. And that's with a coil rear shock and a Fox 36.
That's crazy.
I like it because it is easy. It's easy to have fun on, and it makes me feel confident. And compared to other e-bikes that I ride in a way that's more like a bike. Yeah. You know what? The other e-bikes that I ride give a lot of confidence, and they're fun, but they don't make me feel powerful. They don't make me feel like I can throw them around.
Right. I have that same.
They make me feel insignificant.
Right.
They make me feel like I have to use good technique, like getting the Cushcore off. Like I have to have everything in position and the timing right, as opposed to just put it where I want it.
Right.
Which is cool. But it's, I was first ride back, I have barely been riding, and I swear that thing manual is better than my trans even.
Whoa.
Like single track, just down the single track, like, oh, that just happened.
Wow.
And part of it is just being stoked on how fun it is, and it just makes you do stuff like that.
Right.
But I was also, for a minute there, I was like, the Shuttle SL is so rad and the Relay is so rad, and they're taking a lot of attention away from, because the Rise was the only player really in the rides like a bike e-bike space.
Correct.
And the Relay and the Shuttle SL are really taking a lot of attention, and the Fazua motor.
Yep. And
I was kind of like, is there really still a place in the world for the Rise? But it's in between those two in travel.
It's a one. Yep.
Closer to the Shuttle SL in weight than the Relay.
Yes. At 42, for sure.
You can get a range extender for it.
Right.
Which you can't for the Relay or the Shuttle SL.
Right.
And it's available in an aluminum frame if you've only got $6,500 only.
You're right.
I mean, if that's your budget, because a Relay or a Shuttle SL starts $8,000 or something.
It does. Yeah.
8,800 even maybe.
Yeah.
So
Fazua batteries. That's what you're gonna put on your list of things.
That's right. Buy. Thanks for the reminder.
No, thank you for the reminder.
So having ridden my Rise again and thought this through some more, because I was going to like maybe cut our Rise orders back a bit.
Right.
I don't think I'm going to cut them back too much. Like I think that a lot of people still want more travel than a shuttle SL and less travel than a relay. And as much as I want a 63-degree head angle, I'm not sure everyone does.
Right.
And a lot of people want a range extender, and a lot of people want an aluminum frame.
Right. That bike that applies both whether you do your modification to put the coil on the rear and run it mulleted, or whether you're running it 29-29.
Yeah, and 20 like with the
it comes 29-29.
Yeah,
right?
with the air shock and stock setup, it's dead light.
Yeah, I think yours is full Cushcore coil with the 36. That thing's probably 38, 39 if it's in the full light mode.
Yeah, it was probably in that just under 40 out of the box, I bet.
Holy moly. Yeah. And I guess the battery's a big thing too, because that's a lighter battery. 360
watt hour. Yeah, for sure, that's a big deal. But the 2023, if you order it with the 360 watt hour battery, is apparently like a half pound lighter than my bike.
Oh my goodness.
Or you can get it with the 540 watt hour battery.
Right.
Which is wild.
Which is probably about the same.
I mean, it's
weight.
a Rise. It's not a Wild.
I reinstalled Cushcore into the front tire of my of my Trans E.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a world of a difference.
It's nice, huh?
Yeah.
And is that full Cushcore or XE Cushcore?
XE Cushcore.
Okay. And it's still a world.
Oh
of
yeah,
difference.
totally. And it really, I need to come in when the shop is open and buy a 27.5 Cushcore for the rear.
Oh, nice.
Because I think that's going to make a big difference as well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the ability to run that at 18 or 19 psi. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love that Cushcore. Did you hear Holy Gym is kind of like in name open?
I read
So-
that.
So last week I'm talking to Brian and he's like, "Did you hear that OCMTBA said Holy Gym is open?" And we're like, "No way, it can't be open. Like we know the condition it's in. We've heard. Like that doesn't sound right."
Right.
It was legal to ride, I think. Like from all indications, it's legal to ride, but
The conditions.
Brian and Val are the type of people who think that hard hiking on like pretty much off trail type conditions are
Right.
fun. They think that's fun,
Right.
and like having to navigate where there is no trail, they're good at that kind of thing.
Right.
And they said it was like almost not fun they said it was more an adventure that for them was like almost getting lost and like kind of like too just like not comfortable and nice.
Were
And
they on
so
bikes
that
or
means
were they
people
hiking?
shouldn't ride it yet.
Right. Right. Not
they're-
an endorsement by the
But
podcast,
the good
right.
news is most of the trail is still there and it needs a lot of brushing and a little bit of trail work and,
Right.
and it should run pretty good.
So it's a lot of brushing that really needs to be done.
Yeah, and some spots where the trail just kind of disappears and you got to connect. It's not so much that it's hard. It's that the terrain isn't really beaten down and that you don't really know where to go to find the next segment of trail.
Right.
So it needs to be burned in a little too.
Right.
But I think that's really exciting. And the fact that it's legal, and this podcast will already be up by then, but I understand that Keith's doing another trail work out in that zone, and this time on Holy Gym with a crew, and they're going to try to brush up to the falls.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Keith and crew.
100%.
Speaking of brushing, man, been riding in the Oaks, and the amount of mustard that's out there, it's demotivating.
Yeah. Have you had to hold your brake levers open to stop the mustard from putting them on?
No, because I have,
Hand guards.
I do.
The thing of the season.
It is the thing of the season. They'll probably come off after the season.
Yeah.
But
I wonder how many hand guards we're going to see once the brush is gone.
Man, it's amazing. But I just got to get out there with the scythe and get after it, I think.
Yeah.
So, and the mustard is actually starting to die a little bit, dry out, so it's sharper.
Yeah. And it gets more woody.
Yeah, and so I've been wearing my longer knee pads that come down a little bit further on my shins. I'm getting that thing where my skin is getting more brittle.
Yes,
That's
me too.
That's of a certain
More
age.
easily cut, more
Yeah.
like wax papery.
Yep, that's of a certain age, and so yeah, I came home the other day and I was like, "Holy moly!" Yeah, because it's drier. Anyways, thanks to everyone doing trail work. I got to get out and put some hours out there too.
Yep, same.
Yeah.
Tustin is still hiring for bike assembly and packing position and experienced bike tech full-time position. Full benefits.
Yeah.
You'll like it.
I'm someday maybe.
Well, but I don't know if you're going to fill our bike tech position.
That's right.
Maybe
Exactly. That's right. How about racing? Have you guys been out to Over the Hump?
Our shop has. Zach and Tori have been setting up neutral support and a booth out there and saying hi to everybody and getting some cool videos and stuff. I have not yet been out this season. I intend to. I love those people.
When's the next one?
They're every Tuesday from now
Tuesday
through
night.
June.
That's right.
Or June something. But at least into June.
Maybe we should try to head out there
To watch.
to watch. Yeah. To watch. Definitely to watch. So, yeah, that'd be good. Maybe I'll try to get out of work early. Head out there.
I think I might have coined a new term today.
What is that?
So we're having the marketing meeting and we're talking about some different stories we want to kind of tell and retell from different perspectives over and over again.
Yep.
And it's kind of couched in this story of how like I ruined surfing for myself by basically being too competitive with myself and other surfers.
Right. Right.
And by not allowing myself to have fun without progressing.
Right.
And also by not allowing myself to have fun if I was not doing things that other surfers were doing that I wanted to do.
Right.
And it pretty much ruined surfing for me for a while, right?
Wow.
And,
Right.
for a while I was riding my mountain bike on the same loop all the time, and I was riding with a bike computer, and it started to ruin. And I was like trying to set time records before Strava on my computer.
Right.
And that started to ruin riding
Right.
for me.
Right.
And so we were kind of talking about this idea that we want to remind everyone that whatever pace you're going at is cool, right? Like, and different paces feel fast to different people, and going fast isn't the thing for everyone.
Right.
And we know all these awesome riders that we love to ride with who kind of with great pride don't try to go fast. Like Maxwell was pretty vocal about the fact that he's having a lot of fun and he's not necessarily the fast guy.
Right.
And he would even refer to people other than himself as the fast guys.
Right.
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 And he's fast enough that if he wanted to like worry about that, he could stroke his ego by being faster than lots of people.
Yep.
But the point isn't so much about whether he's fast, but the point is that he had fun on the ride, whether he was beating his last time or faster than someone or slower than someone.
Right.
And how we want to tell that story and how we want to encourage that for people and help people have that if they want it.
For sure.
Right. And so it's like, maybe that's like motion positive.
Right.
Or speed positive.
Speed positive. I like it. I like it. Yeah. You're positive about whatever speed you're at.
Yeah, it's like being body positive.
Body positive, correct. You're speed positive.
Or motion positive, yeah.
Motion positive.
So the motion that you are in is good motion.
The motion, yeah. You think motion positive or speed positive?
It may be speed positive, but I like motion positive because it takes away the need for there to be speed positive
speed.
still. I like speed positive because there's the double entendre of like, oh yeah, we're speed positive. Like we go fast. Like
I like it too because everyone is going a speed.
Yeah.
I mean, slow is a relative term.
It is.
Everyone is going a speed.
Slow is a non-specific velocity, but a velocity.
That's right. That is. Yep. And velocity is a speed. You know, that is.
It
great.
reminds me of sometimes when I get stuck behind a real slow driver. I get, like my little muttering to myself is it'll be like say 45 and a 65,
Right.
and 45's a number.
Yeah, I know. You're much kinder. I'm like, the speed limit would be nice. You know, right? I like it. I'm going to start using it. Yeah.
Pretty speed positive around here.
It is. It is. And it is that thing too where really, really fast riders in any realm, whether it be like cross-country pedaling fast or downhill fast, I've ridden with people like this for the time I was just starting riding. It's always very encouraging. Never a comment about how fast I'm going or how slow I'm going.
But a lot of them are not speed positive with themselves. Some of them are, and those are the ones who are having fun.
Right.
The most fun.
Right. But not all of them are.
And for some people, if you have other ways of, we're going to go a little deep here on my personal like journeys and philosophy, but one of the things I've been working on with myself is giving myself motivation without any break in kindness. So I've kind of realized that if I'm not automatically motivated to do something, like if there's something I need to do that isn't going to be fun for me,
right,
for example, I will often motivate myself kind of by berating myself in a way that I would never berate someone else.
Right.
And it's really not that effective.
Right.
It's only slightly more effective than it would be on someone else. So it's not an overnight thing because I need to stay motivated. So sometimes I just have to tell myself, like, get your lazy butt up and do this, you piece of crap or whatever. Okay. Like,
right. A stereotypical Marine sergeant, old school Marine sergeant.
Yeah, or whatever. Some before I started this exercise, like, or I was just getting into it. Sometimes I would think I was being nice to myself, and then, like, some way I would realize, like, man, like. I would never talk to anyone else that way. Like, and especially someone who I still had hope in. Like,
right. That's right.
So,
yeah, I can empathize with you on that.
For me, being speed positive has always helped me generally go faster when I want to.
Right.
By pushing the limit in a way that's generally, for one thing, when I try to go really fast without being speed positive, a lot of times that's when I crash.
Right. But being speed positive allows you to ride oftentimes not just within yourself, but on the edge of within yourself and feeling fine with that.
I think it also aligns well with the whole idea of like wanting to learn how to quickly get into the flow state, so to speak, or
right. Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day as I was, looking at a segment that I ride all the time and my time through there. And I was like, wow, it's been a really long time since I've even broken like this certain time, where I would used to push all the time to get down into a certain range.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I don't even think that matters. Or maybe it does matter or whatever, but I just feel like riding at this pace makes that trail so much more enjoyable.
Well, and you know what else about I think it was Kevin Rose on the Tim Ferriss podcast. I'm not certain who it was that was talking about how they were timing their bike ride on the boardwalk. And how they were trying to beat their own record, and how one day they decided to just kind of just enjoy it and get a good workout, but just enjoy it.
Right.
And how they were shocked that it was like only like 2% off of like total pain cave, hating it.
Right. And I think the same goes for downhill.
And I think with downhill especially, you're like building up to being able to pass that other threshold.
Right.
By being able to like have your grip loose on the bar, by being and
being speed positive allows you to enjoy those times and actually spend a little bit more time like, oh yeah, my grip is like looser on the bar, and I'm not gripping super tight because I'm trying to break that.
And a lot of times when I'm having a day where I'm not riding well,
Right.
the more I think about it, a lot of that is you're critical of one section of ride that you rode, and it carries that like now you're not in the moment. Now you're like self-talk about what you're doing wrong and
about how you're going to blow your foot off the pedal or something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. I haven't ridden past that little feature without thinking that it's probably been 20 or 30 times.
There's been a couple of times lately where I've had like some not so great image of what could happen riding sneak into my head since then. And I've just been like,
push it out. Just push that out.
But even that too, that goes to another thing. Like sometimes you kind of the quickest way to get it out is to just let it in.
Right.
My mindfulness coach said, in the front door, out the back.
Right. No, that's a good point. Yeah, I meet with a executive coach for my work, and and he says that to me. He says, Eric, you need to learn to speak words of love to yourself. And as like this is a total business perspective, but he's like, just getting to know you, and we take the personality test and gets input from other people around the company, and he's like, you bear the weight of the world on your shoulders, unduly so. He's like, you need to be able to speak words of love to yourself, and in all spaces.
Right.
And so he's like, and I think that's going to help you progress in many areas.
Right.
It's like, that's and this thing where the motivation is not
right. And step one there too, just to add to that, I think would be give yourself credit for all the ways that places you've gotten by being hard on yourself, and how good of a tactic that was, and how sometimes you needed that to get yourself going. And then you can move on.
Right. Thank those moments.
And when you're not nice to yourself, be nice to yourself about the fact that you weren't nice to yourself. Because you can get caught in like, oh, I did it again. There I go.
You know exactly. It's like this. Like,
of course I'm being a jerk to myself.
Maybe I needed that at that point. No kidding.
All right.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Speed positive. I love it. So we talk about trail advocacy and trail work. Are you guys still doing OCMTBA memberships?
Yes, we still have memberships to give away with bike purchases. You have to opt in when you purchase a bike from us, and we will sign you up and pay your 1 year's membership fee.
Yeah, that's great.
And it's not, it's $20. Really what we're trying to do is focus people to sign up and participate in advocacy and trail work.
Yep. Man, and this winter, I cannot tell you, I got to get out there.
I think all of the brush and erosion from all of the rain this winter has all of our minds on trail work.
Yeah.
One
thing I have noticed with all the riding that I've done through a whole heck of a lot of mustard, I haven't found one tick on me.
That's weird because I keep doing tick checks after all the rides.
Every ride, tick check.
I think they like grass. That's my theory, because when I look back at the times I've got ticks, it was tall grass.
Right. Not so much through the mustard.
They're like this. They're like this. Non-native mustard isn't my home.
I need some California-friendly native grass. Yep. Speaking of native things, I have a Mr. Bun in my yard. It has nothing to do with mountain biking, but a bunny.
Oh, there's so many bunnies in the neighborhood this year.
Yeah. I haven't had one in my backyard, though. Well, okay. I have had one for a little bit, but this guy, he keeps coming back. I keep thinking,
you want to eat it?
Not me. I think something's going to come get it.
Oh, yeah, like a bird of prey.
Because we have hawks in the area, too. And I'm like, Mr. Bun, you have to be smarter. You can't just sit out in the middle of the backyard. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got so many bunnies in my neighborhood.
Right.
They're everywhere.
Yeah. But Karen thinks that Mr. Bun is pretty smart. She sees him hiding, and she's like, I think he's got the place scoped out pretty well. So then I say, how do you know it's the same Mr. Bunn we're seeing?
Yeah. Right. Here we go. All the bunnies look the same.
I know, exactly. Anyway, so that is digressing. That's okay. Now that it is becoming summer here in Southern California, and it's, we got to May without having really warm weather.
Yeah.
This is fantastic. And it's still not really warm.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but it is a little bit warmer. And one thing I notice is that my commuter e-bike battery is lasting longer.
Okay.
Like in the morning, right? Because it is now probably 25 to 30 degrees warmer now in the morning than it was in a few months back.
Yeah.
And man, at first I thought maybe my battery is going out on me. Cause I get two full trips. So that's like 28 miles, pedaling at 27 miles an hour. It doesn't matter if it's full boost or mid boost. It's 27. It's going to get me 2 full trips. But I started noticing that in the middle of winter, I almost don't get the 2 full trips. And I did some research on it. It is a legitimate thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's documented with the e-cars, too.
Oh, with e-cars. So how much do you see a decrease? Did you see it this winter with your car?
It's confusing because the heater's also operated off the battery on an e-car.
Oh, that's interesting.
But it's a known thing that they get less mileage in the cold.
Yeah, I was reading one thing that said at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, which is freezing, which is close to what it is early in the morning when you're riding your bike, or pre-sunrise in the middle of.
There were some mornings in the 38,
close,
36.
yeah, in that range. Not a whole bunch, but yeah, those types of days exist, especially this past winter. Someone has said that it could be 20 to 30% less capacity.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So that's significant.
Is it that the battery doesn't charge as much, or that it doesn't run as efficiently, or do you know?
That I don't know. I'm going to hazard a guess. It's not that it's charging less. It's not running as efficiently.
Yeah.
That's my guess. And so along those lines, I guess someone was also saying, try to store your batteries between 55 and 77 degrees Fahrenheit, like room temperature, if you're going to store it long term. So, I mean, for us, maybe that's not so much of a big deal, because in the garage, in the middle of summer, during the day, it'll get really hot in our garages, but it's not for many months at all here. And then during the winter, in the garage, it doesn't actually get super cold. So, but if you live in climates where it gets really cold for a long time, it could be an issue.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, does the cold do permanent damage?
I guess it does.
And the heat might too.
I guess the heat might too, yeah. But, I guess some other factoids. Store your battery. If you're going to store it a long time, store it between 20 and 75% charged. Have you heard that?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, so I hadn't heard that either, but a couple different.
It makes sense, though. I mean, I know you don't want to store it all the way low, and I know you don't want to store it all the way charged, so I guess that makes sense.
I guess. And try not to ride your e-bike in -4 degree temperature Fahrenheit.
It won't work.
I guess it could damage the battery. Yeah, here in Southern California, not going to run into -4. Maybe not many places in the country. There are definitely places.
Yeah.
Yeah. -4. I'm not riding my e-bike to work and it's -4.
Yeah, I'll probably stay in the house.
Pretty much. Or drive my e-car.
Yeah. Cool. I think that might have been a podcast.
I think that might have been.
All right. Thanks, Jake. Thanks, Auk. Thanks, listeners. And thanks to the Path crew and all our vendors. And let's all remember to love the bike we ride.